authenticity just comes straight to us so radically. Thank you. Another round of applause for your next congressman right here, Jamison Carrier. There's a reason I endorsed him. It wasn't a difficult choice. We're done with professional politicians actually running Washington, D.C. And to fight for a family and to endorse a family, and they are doing this as a family. It's not just Jameson, it is their entire family. I met them earlier today, right before we came in here. They're doing it as a family because this fight is personal to them as it is to us. It's personal to me. I'm a father of 2 sons. One's 4 years old, one is about to be 2. And it meant something to me to hear Jameson's story as the father of 2 sons myself. I traveled this country. I actually met another family in South Carolina. She was telling me about her son, who she had lost to the fentanyl crisis. And it's not an overdose. It is poisoning. We will call it what it is. Get that right. And she looked at me, and this is early on in the campaign, and I have to admit, this wasn't the issue that I started the campaign with. But I met families across this country who've been affected by it, and it was the single most important issue by the time I was done with it that nobody else was addressing. And so she saw this early in the campaign, and she said, Vic, I want to tell you something. I know you heard my story, but I want you to really understand it. You're a father of 2 sons, and if you don't get in there and get this right, then you're next up on the list. And that did land with me. This is personal to us. I think if we don't get this right, not just the fentanyl crisis, but every aspect of how our country is disintegrating before our eyes, if we don't get this right before my kids are in high school, then I don't think we have a country left. That's where we are right now in our history. And you got to see it clearly. This isn't just some regular, ordinary 2024 presidential and congressional election. We are in the middle of a war in this country. It is not a war between black and white or Democrat or Republican even. It's deeper than that. It is a war between those of us who love this country and our founding ideals and a fringe minority who hates this country and what we stand for. And right now we need a commander-in-chief at the top who is going to lead us to victory in that war. That man is Donald J. Trump, and we're going to make sure he is elected as the 47th President of the United States of America. Every one of you is. And you're going to do it, we're going to do it together. But that second term can only go to that next level if we have decisive majorities in both Congress and the Senate to really see our agenda through. So it's not just going to be Donald Trump who gets this done alone. It's not just going to be me or anybody else who ran for president. It's going to be people like Jameson who in Congress are actually fighting the fight to implement that vision, to translate that vision into reality. And it's not just the number of R's you count afterwards, right? A lot of people can put a little R after their name and expand FISA 702. It's not reauthorizing it. It was expanding FISA 702. Could just be forking over more money to Ukraine while leaving our own southern border as porous as it's ever been. I don't care if you have an R after your name. The question is, do you stand for the values that this country was founded on? This is not a Republican. It is an America First conservative who loves this country every bit as much as Donald Trump and you and I do too. And that's why I'm here today. We live in a 1776 moment right now. I don't say that lightly. This is a moment that our founding fathers were in 250 years ago. Think about the sacrifices that they made. 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence. What happened to them? We don't often ask that question. 5 of them were captured by the British and tortured until their death. 12 of them had their homes ransacked and burned to the ground, seized property by the British. 9 of them died in the Revolutionary War. 2 of them had their own kids die in the Revolutionary War. Many of them died bankrupt because they had their property seized by the British. They knew the risks they were taking. They didn't make this sacrifice for them. They made it for us. And I think the question for us now is, what sacrifice are we willing to make? What sacrifice are you willing to make for your country, to actually pass on a country to your kids that is greater than the one we inherited? That's what our founding fathers gave us. I think we still have another 250 years and then some still left in our American journey. But we are not going to get there automatically. We're going to get there because each of us, every one of you, makes a sacrifice needed to elect the leaders who can actually stand for us. Elect the leaders who prioritize the interests of our own citizens first. People who put public service above self-service. That's what it's going to take. You got 5 days here, 6 days till this election. Next Tuesday is the election, all right? I'm asking every one of you, you showed up here. I know you're going to show up. But I'm asking every one of you to talk to your neighbor, your classmates, your colleagues, the parents of your kids' classmates, and get them out too. They may not know the difference. The Republican primary isn't the election in November. No, you tell them it's not about Republicans and Democrats. It's about the people like Jameson who are willing to make a sacrifice for this country if we want to have a country left. If you actually want to look your kids in the eye and tell them that you get ahead in this country with your own hard work and your commitment and your dedication rather than your skin color. If you want a country that prioritizes the rule of law again. I say this as a kid of legal immigrants who came to this country through the front door, the right way. That means your first act of entering this country cannot break the law. And that is why we should use our own military to secure our own southern border. If we've had the largest influx of illegal immigrants into this country, then we will have the largest mass deportation in American history, because that's what it means to stand for the rule of law. Some people say this is controversial. End birthright citizenship for the kids of illegals who never applied to in the first place. Stop funding our sanctuary cities with our own taxpayer money to pay for the breakage of the rule of law. These are not black ideas or white ideas or even Democrat ideas or Republican ideas. They are American ideals that we fought a revolution to secure in 1776. 2024 is the 1776 of our century. So I'm asking you to join me in not just voting for this man, but endorse this man. Endorse this man in your community. Get as many people as you can to send a decisive message about not just the fact that we want a Republican, but the kind of Republican that this country deserves. A Republican who puts public service over self-service, who puts the citizens of this country ahead of anybody else, who says that my obligation is to you, who stands for term limits, doesn't want to go squat there in Washington, D.C., you know what? This man's going to go in there, serve, drop the mic, and get out. That's the kind of leader that we're going to need to revive this country. And if we do, right, if we put this man in Congress, put Donald Trump back in the White House, revive this country, we don't have to be this nation in decline anymore. We don't have to be. We're not at the end of the ancient Roman Empire. I don't think we have to be. I think what I see in this country, and I say this as the father of 2 young sons myself, is I see a nation that is still actually a little young, actually. Going through our own adolescence. Figuring out who we're going to be when we grow up. And when you view it that way, it doesn't have to be what you see in front of you. It all makes sense again. I'm not going to be the fake optimist. I don't believe in peddling fake optimism. I'd love to come in here and tell you it's morning in America right now. It is not. But it can be. I'd love to tell you that the American dream is alive and well. It is not. It is alive and hanging on for life support. But it can be alive and well again. It's just going to require every one of us to do our part, to overcome this culture of fear that has spread across this country like an epidemic. And if you do nothing else, and for those of you who have lived the American dream like I have, I'm going to ask you to support people like Jameson to actually lead this country with the financial gifts you've been given. But for those who are working hard to make your own family's ends meet, I'm not going to ask you to do that. I'm going to ask you to look after your family but make a different sacrifice. When you're the only person in a room who believes what you do, right now, more than ever, you have an obligation to say it. Say it with a spine. Say it with conviction. Say it with respect. But part of respect is that you respect your neighbor enough to tell him what you actually think, not some woke-washed version of it. That's how we get this country back. Fear has been infectious. But courage can be contagious too. That's how this country was born. So speak that truth with a spine, that God is real, that there are two genders. I'm not going to apologize for that. That fossil fuels are a requirement for human prosperity, that we will drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear energy. That reverse racism is racism. That an open border is not a border. That parents determine the education of their children. That the nuclear family isn't a bad word. It is the greatest form of governance known to mankind. That capitalism is what lifts us up from poverty. That there are 3 branches of government in the United States, not 4. And that the U.S. Constitution is the strongest and greatest guarantor of freedom in human history. That is the truth. We fight for the truth. We stand up for the truth. That is what won us the American Revolution. That is what reunited us after the Civil War. That is what won us 2 world wars and the Cold War. That is what still gives hope to the free world. And if we can revive that dream over group identity and victimhood and grievance, then nobody in the world, not a nation, not a corporation, not a virus, not China, is going to defeat us. That is what American exceptionalism is all about, and that is what we will revive to save this great nation. So in November, I want you to vote for Donald Trump, and on Tuesday, I want you to vote for Jamison Carrier to be your next congressman right here from Indiana. God bless you and your families, and may God bless our United States of America. Thank you, guys. God bless you. Thank you. Good to see you guys. Congratulations. Thank you. You're supposed to be a part of a giant selfie with the big amazing. Oh, I love that. Let's do it. We're going to turn around and John's going to get us. Thank you. We'll get a giant selfie right here. Great group. Great group. I love the energy. Let's go. Let's go. Come on in, Kathy. Let's do it. Get your signs up.